So, Nick Collier here, and this is a different part of my world. We've kind of moved out of the machine shop area, which is right through that door, and into the pottery area, which is another love of mine. And actually, I started making pottery. It was my first art or my first craft. Well, besides Harleys. I didn't know I was an artist when I built Harleys, but once I stopped doing that, I started doing pottery. And this piece I did, probably 2 or 3 months ago during a class, which came out pretty good. That was very sweet. And I'm just going to kind of walk you through a couple of pieces that I made lately and tell you the story about going back to school when I was about 24 and finding out that I was an artist, by the way, and I was pretty well blown away. Here's another platter that I made. I don't know if you can see all the texturing in there, but that came out pretty good. I can't wait. It hasn't been fired yet, so I have to be really careful with it, and I can't wait to see what the glaze is going to look like. And here's the back side of it. So anyhow, when I went back to junior college, and this was about 72 or 73, I found myself in the art department just by accident, and I was the best in my class. Here's a cup that I made, and it kind of came out pretty good. Nice fluting on the edges there. I think that handle came out good. And anyhow, I was best in my class, and I was blown away. And so I ended up in the pretty much dropping all of my other subjects. I mean, I took kind of a general range of subjects. I dropped everything, and I just ended up in the art department and stayed there for a year. And basically, I was there as they opened the doors in the morning, and they had to kick me out at night. Here's a kind of a cute little piece. And so at the end of that year, I moved to Nevada City. And of course, when I moved to Nevada City, and here's a series of bowls that I'm making. And this is for Hospitality House, which is the local homeless shelter. And they have a soup bowl extravaganza, and that's going to happen next weekend, I think, or somewhere in there, where the local potters make a bunch of bowls, and you take them to the thing, and then they have soup, and for $20 you can get a bowl of soup, and you get to take the bowl home. So that's kind of cool. Anyhow, I got about 30 of these. Just real simple, basic designs. Oh, here's a really cool cup that came out just beautiful. And I'm just really pleased with it. You can never tell what's going to happen with the glaze. So you can kind of see the design, though. The design just really like that really small fluting stuff. So that's kind of a nice piece. Oh yeah, here's some pretty cool pieces here that I made when I was sick. And I couldn't really come up to the studio, so I had to work at the kitchen table, and so of course I didn't have the wheel, so I just did some hand builds, which was fun. And you can kind of see there's some nice texturing work, little 3-leg number, just doing a fun little hand built piece. So anyhow, when I moved to Nevada City, I immediately wanted to set up a pottery studio, and I was actually across the street from Dick Hotchkiss, which was a pretty famous potter guy, but I never could quite get it together. I mean, I was able to fire a few pieces, but never could quite get it together. And then, here's kind of a cool piece. This was a slump piece. I mean, I took a slab of clay and then slumped it over another bowl and let it dry a little bit, and then pulled it off and put some feet on it, and you can see the feet, and put a little texturing in there, and yeah, that should come out pretty good. So anyhow, never could quite get it together. And certainly financially I couldn't get it together. And then my neighbor was a jeweler, and he kind of showed me how to do jewelry. And I literally put pottery away for 35 years. I didn't do a piece of clay. And now that I'm kind of retired from the jewelry piece, out there doing machine work, I started to pick pottery back up. Actually, Barbara took me to a class. We were doing a, let's go out and be romantic piece by doing something, which is good for me because I can't go places and not do anything. And she got this class, this pottery class, this sculpture class, and so we went to this class, and I just had so much fun. Oh, actually, here's the pieces that we made. Here's this Barbara made this piece, which came out really good, very sweet, and I made this piece here, which was really cool also. And we did that in about an hour, and I had fun doing it, and I went, wow, I really like pottery. I really like clay. I like playing with this stuff. So I had this extra space in the studio here, and I thought, well, hell, let's just make it part of a pottery space. And, we did it. And here it is. Let me just kind of swing around here. Oh, yeah, I've got one other piece here, which is really a cool piece. And I just finished it. I mean, just half an hour ago. And it's a big platter. I've been thinking about doing ritual platters, which has my interest. And you can kind of see, I don't have any lights in this part of the room yet, so I don't know if you're going to get full range. There's some pieces that are already bisque fired and waiting to be glazed. There we go. Okay, so life is good on Lazy Dog Road. This is Nick Collier, and I'm having fun. It's Saturday morning. The snow is melting. We had a little bit of a rain last night. It was very sweet and a lot of wind, and I just love that. So this clay, interestingly enough, we have a pretty good sized clay deposit about, 100 yards from our house. And little Lily and I took a foray out to the clay deposit here over a month or so ago, and we mined a bucket full of clay, or dry clay, of course, and then slaked it down and got it all ready and put it into the water, and sifted it till it was powder, and then we poured it into the water, and she was totally intrigued by that, and then we ended up with this amount of clay, but it was pretty raw at that point because it was pretty fresh coming out. So this has been sitting around for about a month or so, and I think what I want to do is I want to throw a nice big bowl with this. Well, not a big bowl, because we've only got about 8 pounds of clay, but a good size bowl. And since it was fairly raw clay, I'm expecting to find a few bubbles, a few air pockets, but so far it's looking pretty good. Just keep wedging it up until I get all the way back around to that original surface. And you can kind of feel the surface is a little bit different, a little bit drier than the rest of the clay. But this clay at this point is just about perfect. I'm not seeing any air pockets. It looks pretty good. Let's kind of slam it, and then I just kind of push in all the little lines so that no air pockets form. Get a little bit of a ball going there. Let's put a bat up on the table. Where's our wheel? There it is. Get a chair over here. And it's been a couple of months since I've shown any clay, so I'm really excited about getting back to it. And as always, there's excess clay on the bat from when it was wet. So just kind of wet the bat down a little bit and drop that clay right on top of there. Let's see if we can get over here to where you can see what's going on. How about that? That looks pretty good. So now the first step, if you've never done this, is to bring the clay into some kind of center. And this is going to take a little bit of effort and a lot of pressure. And as my clay teacher, I took a class here, I don't know, it was a couple months ago, and she kept saying, don't muscle it, don't muscle it. And I'm thinking, well, that's the only way I know how to do this, is to muscle it into position. Now I feel a bit of a lump in there. And we're trying for a nice cylinder. Well, not cylinder, but not a cone like we've got right now. And the more centered, the better. This clay throws really nice so far. This is my first experience with it. So now I'll come in and just trim off the all the garbage in the back there. Garbage down below, kind of get myself squared up in this space. That looks pretty good. It's not totally centered, and it's, as I said, the more centered you can get, the better the pot throws. But sometimes, you know, you gotta consider, well, you know, how long do I want to spend centering? And let's just spend another 30 seconds or a minute. See if we can get this thing to... That's pretty good. Now, and some people do this wet, and I like to do it dry, you know, without very much clay, or I mean, very much water. And I just kind of start in the center and push my way down. Always staying in the center, of course. And notice how things have kind of gotten off a little bit off center, but you know, it's not that big a deal. And we'll push down further. It goes further down. Main thing is not to get too far down, but then it's a big pain to bring everything back up again. And let me see if I can find a needle. There we go. So we're just a little bit too far down, but it's not too bad. Once we start throwing, it'll push a little stuff down into the bottom there. Alright, so now use a little flat sponge to get it wet. And that's really my kind of my gasket between my hand and the clay. Just kind of bringing the clay up so that it squares itself up. Not worried about too much just yet. Just kind of getting everything level. And now go in and pull this inner part out so that it kind of starts the shape of a bowl. Looks pretty good. Let's bring it out just a little bit further. And then bring it up just a little bit. And you can see the thing is kind of gotten a little bit taller. Maybe just an inch or so. But I haven't really been pulling on it either. So square up the top again. Always square on the top up. Alright, now's when we start getting some height out of this chunk of clay. So I come in and I dig my finger in just a little bit from the outside and the inside and just start working my way up. And right about there is where I ran out of moisture. Drop a little back in there and continue up. Okay, we put about 2 inches onto the height of that now. This raw clay really is nice to work with. Continuing another pass. Now we're going to get a little bit of height out of this time. I can feel it. Just ran out of water. Okay, we added another 2 or 3 inches to that. Now, as usual, you got a bunch of clay down at the bottom here, and it starts to narrow at the top. So what I like to do is kind of come in and do a couple of passes just on the bottom, just to get some of that clay up in the air. Not do anything on the top. Yeah, we got another couple inches out of that. Let's try again. This time we're going to have to kind of and then at the same time I'm pulling out just a little bit. I don't want to start forming the bowl yet, but just giving it a little bit more width. So this last little part here is much thicker than the rest of the the rest of the cylinder. But in some ways I don't mind that, and I'm going to go ahead and continue to pull up because that's where we're going to get a lot of our height, but also leaving just a little bit more thickness up on top here, because once it starts to open up, all of this is going to thin way down, and I don't want it to be too thin. Let's do a little bit more. All right. So we've got about, I don't know, we've got about a ½ inch wall going most of the way down here. And I think I can pull that bottom section up just a little bit more, but not much. Because once we start to open this bowl up, as I said, everything's going to start to thin out pretty radically. Like running it up the side just like an old, not a Victrola phonograph, but an old Edison phonograph, you know, with the wax, with the wax cylinders. Okay, a little slop, a little water on there. And now we're going to pull this pot out, or the bowl out. Get all the water out of the bottom here first. Okay, we're ready to go. So basically I just kind of go in, do the same thing, do the same thing, except not squeeze the clay. All I'm doing is reforming the clay. So just kind of opening it up a little bit. You can kind of start to see it bulge at the bottom there. The clay is really flexible. This clay, I just really like it. This comes from my, you know, like just down the road a little bit. Great stuff. And I'm hoping that I can get some decent color out of it, because, you know, I've got a little electric kiln. You can't really do a reduction firing in an electric kiln. So what I've been trying to do is find a clay that would look like it's been reduction fired and still be electric. And reduction fired is when you, at the very end, everyth's pretty much up to temperature, and then you just shut down the flues, and sometimes you even put some, you know, a couple of green sticks in there, something like that, to really get the thing to start smoking. And what that does is it puts the entire system into a reduced atmosphere, which oftentimes brings on these amazing glazes. It really brings the color out of the glazes. Alright, so I've still got a nice tight top, which is good. We're starting to get this bowl to kind of spin out. I got plenty of room left on the rim here. You know, what is that? Hell, almost 3/4 of an inch. But you can see each time I make a pass, the rim gets a little thinner. So let's make another pass and see what we this thing down a bit. More water. There we go. A little bit more. Same thing, just like one of those old Edison phonographs. I'm just moving very slowly up the side of the walls, and the clay will just kind of relax and form right with it. Notice how that top edge of the wall is really thinning out now. Center here. Let's take another pass. Square up that top again. Alright, this one will be possibly the final form. Dry it out a little bit, and I myself, being the perfectionist that I am, could never leave the pot like it is, because there's all kinds of little ripples on the inside. You probably can't see them from there, but so I come in there with a little French curve here, and I just kind of curve out interior. Well, let's see, maybe I can pick you up here and give you a look at the interior. Let's see, my hands are all gummy, but you can kind of see right in there, there's a little bit of a lump, and down at the bottom there's a little bit of a lump. So we're going to come back in a second, and I'll show you what happens when the French curve goes in. It just really squares up all of the mishaps and we worked our way to the bottom now. outside edge is getting a little lumpy. We can pull that back in. So now let's go back inside the rim here, inside the bowl. Now we got nice smooth surfaces, and you know that fits with my personality. You know, even though I'm a little bit rough on the outside, the inside is very smooth. Okay, so a little bit of water on this edge. We just need to form the edge a little bit just to kind of give ourselves a little bit of a finish. And you can see how it's a little bit lumpy as it goes around, but I'll tell you, once this thing gets off the wheel, you will never see that lumpiness. Kind of bring that rim out just a little bit. There we go. That looks nice. So, and this is one of those places where and I've done it so many times, I've just kind of taken it just that next step and wrecked it. So this is the place where I've learned to stop and just let the thing rest. We're going to give it, half a day or a day to set up a little bit right there on the wheel head, because I don't want to take it off, because sometimes you take it off and it'll whip the top edge and it'll be off a little bit. But you can see now that it's stopped, can you tell if there's any lumps in that rim? No, not a bit. So we're going to let this sit for 12 or 24 hours, and then we'll come back and trim it and maybe put a little design into it, and let her set up, and at some point in the near future make or run it through the keyboard. Thanks for watching.